So as we left, I kind of left this little cliffhanger, right, of what happened on July 16th. It was a good day. Yeah. We spent some time defining reality, right? And there's probably a lot more we could do there. And what I would encourage each and every one of you to do, the most important reality for you is your reality, right? Your family, whatever it is for you. And so spend some time looking at that. Get real with it. Because again, if you want to actually do something, there's no greater motivator than wanting to change your current reality. I used to hear people even call it disgust, right? There's no greater motivator than disgust. All right? So if that's what it takes for you, then be that way. Whatever it is. Doesn't have to do with Premier. Whatever. On July 16th, this last year, I was going through, and some of you might remember this, especially on our leadership, on our Rise Up calls. I shared, for whatever reason, I think it was June 30th, somewhere in there, I started feeling convicted, started feeling like I was being asked to fast. And this thing came up of, hey, fast for 40 days. And now again, I like eating. I like it a lot. Try to do it at least 3 times a day. Okay? And I'd never felt compelled to do that before. I'd done little spurts here and there of different types of fasting. But I was like, okay. And then I just happened to say, okay, well, what's the math? Because you hear a lot in the Bible about the significance of 40 days, and you'd hear about 40-day fasts. And I was like, okay, well, where does that put us? And starting on July 1st. And the 40th day was the day rally started. I'm like, okay, maybe that's significant. I don't know. And so just before you think I went without food at all during those 40 days, it was lunch. I gave up lunch during that time. And the whole point of fasting, as best as I can tell, isn't so much about not eating or not doing something. It is also, what are you doing either with that time, and in that, how are you realizing that, hey, this thing that seems so basic to my needs, actually, God can fill that, right? And it's like, okay, when I'm in that frame of mind, then that's opening me up to receive things that maybe he's been trying to give me anyway, but I'm just getting a couple other things out of the way and clearing the path, all right? So that's where I was. And July 1st, I started doing it. And at the same time, the two didn't go together, but I'd heard about this book called 2 Chairs. Many of you have heard me talk about this. Okay, it's by a man named Bob Bodine. He lives actually here in the DFW area. I think it was Tim that actually told me about this book. And so I was like, okay, I'll go read 2 Chairs. And again, you can kind of see my flippant responses to people giving me recommendations to read stuff. I'm like, all right, I'll read it. Okay, so I started reading it, and I bet you can relate to this. I've read a lot of books that help me with, hey, work on this or work on that, and I enjoy it. A lot of times I just read them, right? I don't actually do anything with what's in there. But just because of the situation I was in, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something with this one. And the whole point of this book is it has to do with prayer. It has to do with your prayer life. And some of you in here might say, yep, I've got a prayer life. Some of you are like, no, I don't really do that. And either way, whatever. But for me, I've been praying for my entire life. Never felt like I was great at it or anything. But this book just kind of helps guide you through the process of, hey, start sitting down, you in one chair, assume God's in the other, and just talk. And more importantly, listen. Really listen. And so I started going through this exercise. And so especially whether I was at home, or I like to talk about it while I was here at the office, because at the office, it hit lunch, and I'd shut my door, and there's kind of a long conference table in my office. And so I would sit on one side, and I have the chair there. I'd sit down and dig into the Word a little bit, kept a journal. And each day was like a specific question. It wasn't like, God, what's your will for my life? Not to say that's not a good question. But it was more like, all right, here's what I'm dealing with right now. I got this friend going through this. What do you think? And it was amazing because it was like clarity that was just raining down on me like every single day. Like it wasn't even a ramp up period. It was just awesome. And I knew it wasn't just coming from me because the answers that were coming back, I would have never thought about on my own. It was like it would shift my entire thinking. And so that's what I was going through, and I was in that mode, and it was great. And at the same time, at Premiere, at the beginning of 2019, we launched lots of different programs, and there's a lot of energy, and yet, me just looking at how things were, it just felt like really stagnant. It's like, great people and everything, but I'm here from the field. I'm hearing frustration like I've never heard before. Even leaders saying, hey, we don't even know what to tell our people. What do we need to do? And to be honest, I was like, yeah, I don't know either. And so July 16th, as I was chairing it, my question for the day was, God, what do you want to do with Premiere? Now, some of you are sitting there right now, it's like, how in the world did it take you that long to ask him that question? All right, and I cannot defend myself on that one. But on July 16th, I did. And it was just honest, and it was like, what do you want to do? And I wrote it down like I was doing, and I just kind of sat there. And what happened over the next 10 minutes was just a flood of clarity and direction that's really the basis of everything I'm going to share with you the rest of today. And I'm going to be pretty transparent with it. There's probably some things that I jotted down that you might be like, man, I wish he hadn't phrased it that way. But hey, I'm just going to kind of try to let you live in the moment a little bit, okay? And ask for your grace as we go through that. But it truly was, and I've got a whiteboard in my office, and so I immediately went to the whiteboard and just started jotting down what was hitting me. And the first thing that was hitting me were this list of challenges, all right, that, hey, I was looking at and that I was aware of. And one of them, I'd heard from several people. I don't know if everyone thinks this, but I've heard from several. It's like, hey, I think our price is too high. All right, that's a challenge. It's not the challenge. It's just a challenge, okay? And, of course, yeah, that makes sense, right? When you're, 50% and 10, 10, 10 and everything like that, it's, you've got to make up for those things. But that's a challenge, right? If we feel like, our price on our jewelry is too high, what does that mean? And then I just started going through others. I wrote down the phrase old brand. That one might sting a little, okay? But hey, any brand, especially in direct selling that's 35 years old, it's been around a while, okay? I know many jewelers have told me this, people in the home office, it wasn't something I just made up, but I've often heard the phrase, hey, Premiere, that's the jewelry your mom likes. Ever heard that one or even said it? Now then, let me just say this. I think what the design team has done, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, best I can tell, has totally shifted that. But here's the thing about brands. They get branded, right? And so sometimes, regardless of what you do, sometimes you can overcome that. And sometimes it's like, oh man, we got to do even more. And so anyway, that's a challenge. I'm not saying one way or the other. That's just, that's a challenge that we face. I bet you hate seeing this phrase. And I don't believe it myself, but it's that feeling. And by the way, this is coming from things I have heard from jewelers. No one likes to do shows anymore, okay? Or they don't like it the way they used to do, or not as much as they used to do it. For a party plan company, this is an issue, right? Now then, don't get me wrong. I'm going to say this throughout the day. And a lot of times people tune me out when I say this, and they only focus on what they think I mean by saying that. I love home shows. All right, they're going to keep going. They are the most productive way to share our products, okay? However, all of you are telling me they don't happen as often as they used to, so that can't be the only way that we share. It just can't, all right? And that's a challenge. Every party plan company is dealing with this. I talked to an executive recently at Cincy. Many of you are aware of Cincy, a great party plan company. He said probably 10% of their sales now come from shows. 10%, okay? And they're a great party plan company. That's more representative of a lot of what's going on, okay? Our margins, not to get too businessy, but I think we all know Andy and Joyn didn't really start this company and make money for themselves, right? And so they set it up that way, and it's amazing. But from a business standpoint, when you're sitting here and it's like, hey, there's not a lot left over by design at the end of the day to do a lot of the other things that the company needs to do to help everyone in the field excel, it's tough. It's a challenge, okay? Shipping. And I'm not just talking about Premier shipping. I'm talking about the world. Shipping, I mean, everything gets shipped now. It is extremely competitive. And what's interesting is even though more and more things are getting shipped, cost of shipping, whether you're paying for it or not, cost of shipping continues to go up. Okay? That's an issue. Especially when Amazon's sitting there and saying, we're willing to take it on the chin and even take a loss because we know it's going to knock all of y'all out. All right? I know it's real easy to say we got to have free shipping. It's like, well, we also got to have like an extremely long runway, because somebody's paying for it. Somebody is. Okay? But that's a challenge. You got to take that on. Hostess benefits that don't incent. That's the phrase I wrote down. We have, hands down, the best hostess benefits program out there, right? I mean, 30% as a baseline is unheard of. We had, I think, 4 months out of 2019, 50% hostess benefits were available. And it didn't really do that much, if I'm being honest. Maybe a little tick. Some of you might have taken more advantage of it, but as a company, we didn't see a huge bump either way. So what does that tell us? It's not the amount that gets people to do it. We're already offering the best, right? So, it prompts you, and we'll talk about this later, but it says, okay, we're offering a lot and not getting much in return for it. People aren't being incented by that. It's not as attractive. If the biggest phrase I hear on a regular basis is people don't do shows like they used to, and we're sitting there doubling, tripling the best deals they're probably comparing to, then what does that mean? All right? We got to look at that. I wrote down the model's busted. That one hurt. And I was talking about direct selling. And for all the reasons I just gave you, being in the midst of looking at, man, what a shift. There's so many things different. So what I mean by that is the model as we've known it, in a lot of ways, doesn't work the way it used to. So what do we do about that? I wrote that our leadership is getting older. Everyone gets older, by the way, not just our leadership, right? But we have so many great people who we're here today because of them, right? And yet, at some point, we've got to say, where's that next level of leadership that's going to take what they've given us? Thank you so much for this. Now, how do we continue that legacy, right? It's not, we can't continue to rely on the same leaders when they have done so much, right? And so we've got to step into that void, right? Another one I wrote down, our product isn't consumable. People don't eat jewelry. They don't need jewelry necessarily every month. Some of you do. I know some of you do. Okay. This is a big deal, right? Especially for direct sales companies. There's a lot of that do well. Hey, I'm able to get you as a customer today, but because my product is something you need every month, then that is great. What a great return on that effort, right? Because you're continuing to order on an ongoing basis. So that's just something. It's like, hey, what are the opportunities there? There are a lot more challenges than this. But when I wrote these down in that moment, again, we're still on July 16th, and I stepped back and I looked at it, I actually felt freedom. Because, hey, these are challenges that really, they don't necessarily have anything to do with me personally. They don't even really have anything to do with Premier personally. This is just sitting back and saying, all right, again, defining reality. Let's look at the world. What's going on? And so from that freedom came a spirit of adventure and saying, okay, then let's take this on. And so it led into even more from that. But what I really felt was simply being a better version of Premier Designs isn't going to cut it. That's what I wrote down that day. Simply being a better version of Premier Designs isn't going to cut it. Now that can be for those of us that love Premier Designs, and I know we all do. We have to even detach, all right, for a second, we can't just be a better version of that, but we can still be about everything that Premier is about without being everything Premier has always been as we always known it, okay? I'm going to walk you through how I think that works. As you go through the museum and the office, we all know this story if you've been to Raleigh. But Andy and Joyn, they were ready to go to the mission field. That's what they were supposed to do in their 60s. And they were ready to do it. And Andy was on that flight with Dave Wurtzen. And coming back and kind of this idea of, man, don't just toss away all this business acumen that you have. Maybe you're being called to be an entrepreneur for Jesus. And that's what Premier was founded for, right? It started there. A lot of different things came after that, but wasn't a jewelry company, wasn't in direct sales. We've even heard Andy say, man, I didn't even want to be in direct sales, right? It was to be entrepreneurs for Jesus. So at our core, and again, this has nothing to do with what you believe or even I believe. This has to do with what Andy and Joyn founded the company for, right? This is what they were doing, what they wanted to accomplish, all right? And so that is our core. And so we start with our core and we start working our way out, all right? How do we bring that to life now? You know, as we went through talking through this, thinking about the purpose of the company, we have an unchanging purpose in an ever-changing world. Shortly after I went through all of this on July 16th, I was sharing it with Tim, and I mean, he was like immediately like all for everything I'm going to share. He's like, I don't even get it all, but I like it. Let's go. If it means doing this more, then I'm in. And we called in some people, some of our prayer partners came in one day. And this was right before rally, because again, you think, this was July 16th, right before we're going into rally. A week or two later, we said, you know what, we need some prayer over this. We need some guidance. Robert was there. Mike, Jan were there. Some others were there. And I just kind of shared and again, it wasn't as fleshed out as what I'm going to share with you today, but shared with them. And there was so much encouragement and confirmation in that moment. This was one of the things that was said. It's like, hey, we have to have an unchanging purpose in an ever-changing world. But there were also these little things, and I love when God does this, when he's like, all right, I'm just letting you know, you're doing good, you're on the right track here. But in that moment, I shared with them, I said, I've been, the other thing that's been going on, I've been obsessive about reading the book of Nehemiah. And you go through building the wall and all that. And I remember Robert saying, that is interesting because I've been praying Nehemiah over you recently. And then Jan from our prayer team said, I've been reading Nehemiah too. And I think it's amazing even today what Peggy shared, which I think was yesterday's listing, was from Nehemiah, right? So it just keeps happening, these little drops, But Nehemiah was convicted. He was going to build the wall. He felt called to do it. He was given clarity to do it. Wasn't necessarily qualified and all that good stuff, but he's like, I'm going to go do it. And he did it in 52 days. And so as we look at what does this mean, our job as stewards of Premier is to take an unchanging purpose into an ever-changing world. How do we do that? We aren't changing our purpose of our company. Let me say it again. We are not changing the purpose of our company, but we are updating how and how much we talk about it. And that's what I want to share with you today. So as I was asking that question, what do you want to do with Premier? I have to give a little bit of a backstory. 2 years, probably even more than that, but when I first started working with Gretchen and the design team, she was showing me some stuff that they'd worked on, and one of the things they had worked on was this kind of a sub-brand. So we're thinking about, they were thinking creatively, right? We've got Premier, but is there an opportunity for within Premier to be a sub-brand? They were just thinking creatively. And this sub-brand that they had come up with was called Devoted. And they were actually using which is kind of a trendy thing, but kind of just DVTD, right? Devoted, right? And you see that a lot now. And so, okay, Devoted. And the concept was cool, and we played around with it a little bit, and that might be something we could do. And then all of a sudden it turned into several other things that we were messing with, and I was like, okay, maybe that's the answer. And that's kind of where we were at mid-July. We were working on this concept that it was a part of Premier, okay? And what I felt on July 16th in that moment it was specifically this phrase, and I wrote it down, we become devoted. Now, without you knowing anything else, that can be a scary phrase to you right now, okay? But I got to tell you, it's exciting. But we become devoted. So what does that mean? We're all devoted to the same purpose, philosophy, and mission that Premier was founded on. We're just taking a giant leap forward to amplify and accelerate that work. If at our core, we're entrepreneurs for Jesus as a company, then how do we take that forward? That's what we're founded on, so how do we continue to do that? So I'm going to start summarizing what this is. And let me just say, you're not going to get it all right away, okay? Give it a little time. But I do want to share it with you as we go through this. First off, devoted. It is a marketplace and a distribution channel offering new and existing products that support organizations that bring biblical principles to life. I'm going to break that down a little bit more. We're all about biblical principles around here. Okay, so what does that mean? It's a community of like-minded customers and affiliates who want to help make it happen, and they're rewarded for doing it. Okay, I see some pictures coming up. Just hold on. It'll put your phones down. It'll be online. Okay? 3, it's a platform where people feel equipped, empowered, and inspired to live a life that's fully devoted. Okay? Julie Miller. There's always one. A platform where people feel equipped, empowered, and inspired to live a life that's fully devoted. And by the way, you get to define what a life that's fully devoted is for you. We're not going to sit here and try to define that for you. But at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all trying to do? Live a life that is fully devoted, right? Jesus said he would give us an abundant life, not a comfortable life, not a boring life, not a status quo life, okay, an abundant life. So what is that? All right. So as we look at our purpose, I said we're not changing the purpose of Premier Designs, but we do feel like, hey, maybe we just kind of rephrase it a little bit for this new era and kind of bring it to life in an even new way. So we even started with, well, what were some of the things that Jesus told us? Might as well start there, right? And the first thing he said was love God with everything you have, right? It's the greatest commandment. Heart, soul, mind, all of that. We talk about honoring God, right? That's been part of the Premier Design purpose forever. So this is how we do that. So we want to continue, as a company, this is what we're interested in. So how do we do that as a company? How does that manifest itself? Number 2, what else did he say? The other commandment, love others as yourself, the golden rule, right? That's enriching lives, right? So, hey, we want to continue to do that. That's not going anywhere. 3, we want to support organizations that help bring biblical principles to life. Here's what's cool about this. In 1985, when Andy and Joyn started Premier, no one knew what social entrepreneurship was. There wasn't this big, trend, and I'm going to say it's a trend. It's very trendy to give back now, right? Very trendy. It wasn't then, right? They didn't even know that the idea to create a business to do with its sole purpose being to give back, that was unheard of. They were truly pioneers in this area. Now, there are so many companies that do that, and we should all be excited about that. And so, as so many people are trying to accomplish that, and since that is part of our DNA, what if we found a way to amplify all the work that we're all trying to do? And that's what Devoted's trying to do, okay? And that goes back to the Great Commission, right? Jesus, right before he's leaving the earth, he sends us out, right? I haven't called you to just stay here. I'm calling you to expand, go out. And then finally, we want to create a business model that optimizes and multiplies our impact. The business side of this is now that we're clear on our purpose, we're committed to it, we're devoted to it, how can we make it happen? What's the right way to set up a business to make that happen? We talk about John 15:8, where he says, I am the true vine and you're the branches, right? Everything comes from him and flourishes from him. So then we break down our beliefs. What set of beliefs provide the boundaries from which we operate? Now here's the thing. Why bother having beliefs if they don't dictate everything else you do in life? Right? And yet, society a lot of times tells us, keep your beliefs over there, because this is business. We don't need all that belief stuff over here. That is ridiculous. Why bother having them? It doesn't mean you always live up to them, right? You fall short, but at least you're striving for it. And so when we sit here and say, well, these are our beliefs, again, as a business, it's not so much saying, here's what you have to believe to do business with us. It's more saying, you know what's attractive? People who clearly know who they are and what they're about. So we're going to make sure you know who we are and what we're about. It has nothing to do with who you have to be and what you have to be about. But we just want to make sure you know what we're about. That's all. And so these are the beliefs. We believe we are God's creation. And from him ultimately comes our identity, our direction, and our fulfillment. As a business, that's what we believe. I won't start preaching here too much, but the fact that if you don't believe you're God's creation, it's hard to believe a lot of other stuff that goes on in life. But when you believe you are God's creation, then it helps make sense of so many other things. Here's what's really important. Your identity is not Premier Designs. It's not. Your direction's not going to come from Premier Designs or Devoted or anything else. Your fulfillment is not going to, it's not going to come from Premier Designs. You'll probably be around it. There's probably some ways to make it happen. But if we are created by a creator, then he knows how all those things get met because he created it, right? So we have to recognize that. That's what we believe, okay? We believe God created us with value and that we all have a mission in life. And again, this is just a different way of saying what we've said for a long time. Everyone has value. Everyone has purpose. We believe that, so we want to give people an opportunity to do it. We believe the Bible is God's handbook for living. So we try to base everything we do on biblical principles. Yeah, Premier's always done that. But, the Bible's not just something you have a quiet time with to start the day. It can be a handbook. Oh, what's the Bible say about this? Oh, what should I do about that? All right? Can you look at it that way? We believe in keeping it personal in an increasingly impersonal world. It can look very different on how you keep it personal now, but we still think that's extremely important. And we believe society's greatest challenges are overcome with prayer, giving hearts, an entrepreneurial spirit, and sustainable, profitable methods. I don't want to stay there too long, but that's a really powerful phrase. You can be really entrepreneurial, but if there's not prayer there, then okay, something could be off. Or if there's prayer, but there's not hard work or a giving heart, but you put all of those things together, prayer, a giving heart, not a getting heart, entrepreneurial, creative spirit, let's figure out how to solve the problem. And then let's also figure out how, when we do it, we can actually keep doing it because it's profitable and it's sustainable, right? That's powerful. And that's what we believe. We believe all of society's greatest challenges work that way. Okay? Now let's talk about our plan. How do we live out our beliefs and pursue our purpose? That's what a plan is, right? How do we take those beliefs and pursue our purpose? We can't pioneer new ground with an old plan. Now don't read into that, but it's important. You can't. You cannot pioneer new ground with an old plan. It doesn't mean every element of the old plan needs to go. But just like I said earlier, it means you do have to step back and say, all right, this is new ground. So how do we do this? What you can't do is say, I've got a plan here, and I don't care if it's old ground, new ground, any ground, this is the plan I'm going with. New ground doesn't care about your plan, right? So we have to do that. We have to be willing to look at that. So let's break this down a little bit. How do we live it out? We're going to be a robust marketplace that features products with a purpose. We're going to be a distribution channel to companies and products with a missional mindset. So it increases their awareness, their sales, and their social impact. I'm going to walk you through what that actually means. What is a marketplace? It's pretty simple. They're all around us. Some of you are familiar with this term. Some of you are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But you're seeing even online the rise of specialized marketplaces in e-commerce. How do you compete with Amazon, right? Well, one of the ways is, hey, we're really good at offering this type of product or this grouping of products, or we're really good at serving this group of people. That's a marketplace, okay? Some of us think in terms of malls. They're less and less, but a mall didn't sell any product, right? They just had lots of stores. That's a marketplace. Target, most of their stuff they don't make themselves, right? They just have different things in there. That's a marketplace. So a marketplace is more about, hey, here's a place where you can find this type of product, all right? That's what a marketplace is. And they're all around us. These are different ones that you can find online. There's a lot more than just this. These are just some that are somewhat popular. Poshmark, I bet some of you are familiar with that. Zappos, right? Zappos doesn't make the shoes. They just offer shoes, and they offer a lot more than shoes now. Reverb, I like this one a lot. Guitar Gear. They don't make the guitars. They offer them, right? Gibson, Fender, whatever. Zulily. Some of you have probably been there. I have not. So a marketplace with a mission is what Devoted will be. Every product offered by Devoted will also support an organization that aligns with our beliefs and purpose. Okay? So not only will we continue to create products ourselves, and by the way, here's a bit spoiler alert, we're going to keep making jewelry. Okay? So don't worry about that part. But we're also going to surround it with, we can make other products if we want, but even more powerful, we're going to simply find other products with a purpose and bring them into the marketplace. Okay? This is really powerful. Yeah. All right. Because we believe so heavily in free enterprise and the entrepreneurial spirit, we are constantly looking for new artisans, brands, companies to feature and share with the world. I get really excited about this. You know, the way we've kind of described it is we're looking for brands and companies that have kind of graduated off of Etsy, but they're not ready for Target shelves yet, right? So they're right here. They're kind of an established, proven business, but they've never had thousands of women sharing their products before. They've never had been able to market to an existing customer base of tens of thousands of customers. All right, and so we're going to constantly be looking for them, and because they have a purpose and they have a give back, what a legacy it is for us, whether they are with us for 6 months or 6 years, you know, for us to be able to just step back and say, we got them off the ground. We helped them, and you know, what could be amazing in terms of what they're doing. I get excited about that. Our hope is to help thousands of other like-minded entrepreneurs increase their reach and impact. Okay? Think about it. I mean, this is big for a second, all right? And it's amazing the reach that can occur here. So the second part of our plan is we reward everyone who shares our products and purpose. That's cool, right? We're going to dig into this more later, how this works. But everyone who purchases anything at Devoted can earn rewards with every single purchase they make, and purchases anyone they refer makes. We'll talk through what that looks like a little bit later, okay? But that's powerful. And affiliates can enroll and earn a profit on everything they sell. That's good. And they can build teams of other affiliates and earn commissions on those sales. Okay? So again, that's kind of what you're doing now, right? So we'll break that down in a minute. But we want to reward everyone who helps us spread our purpose and spread the mission. Number 3, we want to give like-minded consumers a place where their dollars do more than just buy cool stuff, and where their shopping can actually shape the world. Right? Where they're there are people, now it's important for me to say this, there are people who will shop with certain brands just because of the give back feature, right? I bet some of y'all have done that before. That's great. That's not why we're doing it, okay? So we're not doing it to say, hey, there are a lot of suckers out there that'll just buy something if you tell them you got to give back, all right? That's not why we're doing it. We still have to have amazing products. But if we can create a community where, if I have a choice of shopping with Devoted and shopping elsewhere to get this awesome product, I'm going to do it here because I know what that means. And we can resonate with like-minded consumers who, on whatever level it is, something resonates with what they're doing with their own worldview. All right? And that is, by the way, that's marketing 101. You find a worldview and people say, oh, there's my people. I like that. I like them. Something about them is like me, so I want to be around them. And by the way, that's the only way you compete in an Amazon world. We're not going to out Amazon, but we can create a brand and a world and a tribe of people that's like, I connect with that. We can create a culture that people are like, this is who I want to be associated with. Okay? And then we keep going. We offer unique, useful, trendy items that anyone will want, no matter what you believe. Again, it's not a prerequisite. You've got to agree with us to enjoy this. Not at all. We're just being clear on what we do. Because our business model optimizes and multiplies our giving, every purchase has the power to impact the world through the many organizations and affiliates who are supported. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a second. And a big part of this is we rally those who do share our worldview. We give them a place where, I can actually make an impact somehow, right? My dollars can help shape the world. They can do something here. It's not going to resonate for everyone, but there's a lot of people that it will, okay? Finally, we want to partner with like-minded companies to optimize and multiply our collective impact on the world. We've kind of talked about that, but not only do we want to see our giving increase and our purpose lived out through what we do as a company, but as we support other companies that have a similar approach, it just multiplies and it accelerates, right? The selfish thing to do would be, we want to be entrepreneurs for Jesus, and we're the only ones that we want doing that, right? If truly that is the purpose, then we're like, all right, who else can we get involved, right? And what if we just become the place that's really good at letting everybody connect and do that together? That's powerful, okay? So let's talk about our product mix. As we walk through this, in the future, down the road, I don't want to oversimplify it, but if you've got a great product and you as a company, I'm not talking about you, but the you out there, you have a company, it gives back, then we'll probably consider it, okay? But to start, it feels like, hey, going from 35 years of jewelry, it makes sense, okay, let's continue to offer jewelry, but let's look maybe at home goods. Let's look at other accessories. Let's look at maybe some beauty items, right? Like skincare or something like that. We've even looked at, hey, are there some food items that make sense, And so let me show you how this could play out. But it feels like these are the logical next steps in terms of, okay, what are the first brands that we bring on into this marketplace that makes sense for us as we ramp up? So these are not, it's important for you to hear me say this. We are in the midst of solidifying all the agreements that we're going to have with companies. What I'm about to show you, none of it is set in stone, okay? I want to see your head nod like this. Yes, Brett, I understand, okay? But what's amazing is it's almost like, when you, I really want a Ford Raptor F-150, right? About a year ago, I really started wanting one. And amazingly, everywhere I look, there's a Ford Raptor, right? You know how that works, right? Well, the awesome thing here is, as we started looking for companies that give back, they just started popping up everywhere, right? There's a lot out there. And so this is only to give you just an example of what it could look like in terms of product breadth, okay? But it could be as simple as socks and cool journals. You've got some Roma boots there. We've got some skincare there. Joyn bags, we're going to talk about them in a minute. And we've got some scarves. And again, it could definitely expand well beyond this. I'm just trying to give you a vision of how it could expand. But as you dig into some of these stories, Roma boots, they're a well-established brand. They kind of have a similar model as Tom's shoes. Their founder is from Romania. He's a strong Christian. And every time you buy their awesome boots, he's helping orphans in Romania. That's what goes with that. That's an amazing, amazing opportunity. Minnie and Meep, right? Hey, yep. That's why I put that in there, just for the ooh effect. Again, not saying we're necessarily going to do this, but this is, hey, maybe something that we could do. Some people, as we've shared this, have said, oh, what if we had all kinds of stuff for baby showers? Boy, wouldn't that be awesome, right? And they give back to children in need. Socks, I think we're meeting with this company next week. We're already talking with them, but 50%, they do other things other than socks. And I know some of you are like, socks? I'm supposed to get excited about socks? Again, think broader. The idea of marketplaces, there's lots of stuff, okay? And they give back. This is one we're in talks with, hand in hand. They're a pretty established one. And they give back. If you look at the very top, they have approximately 3 million bars of soap donated to children in Haiti and Cambodia. Right? That's what they do when you purchase. So all kinds of brands like this. And we're starting to reach out to them and talk to them. This is one, they're based here locally. They do journals. And we all like a good journal. They're called Double-Edged Notes. And I got to sit down and have coffee with the two guys that founded it. I have never met anyone in my life that geeked out more over the quality of a journal than this guy. I mean, he started getting into paper grade and all these things, and I was like, man, that's awesome. Looks like a great journal. Yeah. But one of the things that they do, they make their journals in China, but every time a journal is purchased, they give a Bible in China, right? That's really cool. Now, none of us are going to go out and just make it rain with journals. But isn't it cool that, hey, that's just one of the many types of products that possibly we could offer, right? There's others out there. He is greater than I. Have you ever seen that logo? That's a fairly popular one. I'm not saying we would necessarily work with them, but I used to think it was Hikai until I was like, what is that? He's greater than I. We've even looked at, hey, there's some things that give back to food items and coffee and things like that would be like, oh yeah, that would be really cool to share. Again, the sky is the limit. We want to be responsible with how we bring products on. And this is a whole new world for us in terms of how we do that. But the whole idea of this is not, hey, here's jewelry and a couple other products. It's got to, sooner rather than later, get to, here's jewelry and this and this and this, because we're a marketplace with a mission. And so we feature all kinds of different products. All right. Now, one that we spoke to recently, that we reached out to, and there's a story behind this that I'm not going to tell, but it's called Joyn bags. Great bags, totes, awesome stuff. And Peggy saw someone with one of these bags, and she was just like, that is a great bag. Tell me about it. And she's like, well, they just happen to be Christians who are kind of using their business as a mission. And so we met with them recently. That was rather fortuitous because they live in Thailand, in India, but they just happened to be in town. This was like 3 weeks ago. So they came and met with us, and it was just another moment of confirmation as we spoke with them and talked with them that God was saying, see, there's going to be some amazing opportunities here. There are people who are waiting for this. So, Peggy, you want to join me on stage and kind of share your perspective of that?
Well, in October, this last October, Tim and I went to Tennessee to visit our really good friends, Penny and Charles Lowry. You know him. And Penny they've been prayer partners since the get-go and just very close friends of ours. And so I was in our time there, we had such a good time. She kind of already know, being a prayer partner, the future of Premier and how it's changing. And I was just telling her about asking for prayer, more prayer, and how it's going to be, told to the EDs and the leaders and then to the field. And she said, oh, absolutely. And she goes, I said, it's going to be kind of like, the name's going to be Devoted. And, y'all are all devoted to Premier. And this is just going to be such a perfect name, I think, for this new adventure. So I was telling her about that, and she was praying for that. I go, we're going to have products with a purpose. And so anyway, I kind of got the wheels turning with Penny, and she has the coolest things. I absolutely love to get gifts from her. She's just a gift giver, and you know Penny really well, Pam. But anyway, so she has this weekender tote, and she said, I just want to show you this bag. It's so cute, y'all. I mean, like so, cute. And she said, this is called Joyn, and through somehow connection, she knows they knew the founders, the owners, and so next thing I went back to, I got so excited about the product and came back and told Brett and Gretchen about it, and I got to see the product, and so next thing I know, Gretchen's reaching out to, her name is Mel, the co-founder, and I'm going to share you a little bit about her history in just a minute. But anyway, she came in January, and we met with Brett and Gretchen and I, and just sweet girls. They have raised their 2 boys in India, and both of them, they're just mission-minded folks, love the Lord, and she loves textiles and accessories, and so she thought, and her husband loves guitars. We got into that, and he really takes on guys that have a drug problem and cleans them up, kind of, and they make and build guitars. And it's given him such fulfillment to see all these men that are building these beautiful guitars, and they're getting out of the drug life, and he's building these guitars with a purpose. So that's kind of his little gig, wouldn't you say? And then we've got Mel, who loves just just really textiles was her love. So she said, let's just get all these artisans together and let's start making this product. So they started doing bags and accessories and purses, and this is how. And they have like this open air workplace, and you can go online and look at it, and you'll see all the beautiful people that are making these beautiful bags. They're hand stamped. I could just go on and on. It's so exciting for me because it's color and fabrics and textures. And so she showed us, and we all grouped around and talked about that. So I want to make sure I don't skip anything because I get so excited. So we, let's see, let me just give me a minute. So she was telling me in this open air workplace, they are able to share their faith. They're big believers, and it's just kind of having a ripple effect. And they're saying how everybody's just, and you see the factory when you go online, and it's not really a factory. She kind of corrected us when we said that. It's an open workplace, and it's just seeing all these artists work together, and you see their pictures. Their line, it's just awesome. You've got to pull it up and look at it. So anyway, as we're getting excited, I'm getting excited, we kind of walk out from the meeting. She said, I'm going to send you samples and fabric swatches, and of course, Gretchen and I couldn't wait to get those. But before we were walking out, we were in this lobby here at Premier, and I see all your pictures on the wall, and I just got really filled with emotion. And I said, Mel, because I just felt her heart, and her co-worker, Carrie, was with her too, and they both love the Lord. And I said, could you please be praying for Premier? And I said, in this change. And she said, absolutely, let's just stop right here and pray. So I was just crying, and she just right there, and we'd hear it as Gretchen and Mel and Carrie and I just put our heads down and we prayed. And she said, and we'll continue to pray. And she sent me emails and said, I'm just praying all the time for this new change for your company. So this is the kind of companies vendors, we are going to represent. And I do have another little God story I can tell you. I don't think Brett knows this, but there is a person that I really want her product. So I called her the other day, and she called me right back, and she said, Peggy, I don't think I have a good connection with you. She had a flood in her home, so she was living at her parents' house where they're fixing the flood. She said, I'm at the lake house, and it is horrible reception here. And I said, when I come back, I said, well, that's okay. Come back, get settled, give me a call, because I really want something. I want to ask you something I would love to share with you. And anyway, yesterday, I went to J. Jill, I like that store. Anyway, and I don't know, I just think this is such a God story. I was, just looking around, and she comes right out of the dressing room. I mean, we touched shoulders. She said, Peggy, I just got settled in last night. I was going to call you today. She goes, oh, and we just hugged each other. And so we just sat right there in J. Jill, and I was sharing her this story and what I want from her. And so anyway, she's coming in next week. Can't wait to show you. But anyway, isn't that cool? I just think it's a God wink, But anyway, I just want everybody to be on board because this is so, so exciting. And you're going to be so proud of all the vendors, and they all love the Lord, Anyway, that's what I have to share.
Thank you, Peggy. Product development is clearly further down the road than I thought it was, so that's good. This was great. That's awesome. This is special. I want to walk you through, okay, how could this work? Because this is the real magic of the devoted concept, okay? So when you place an order with Devoted, it's a marketplace with a mission. We feature products with a purpose. Every order, regardless of what you order, it doesn't matter. In this case, I've got 4 items, and each one of those in and of themselves features a different brand or a different cause. And notice too, I've got Premier Designs jewelry there, right? So we'll continue to make jewelry, and in this, we'll continue to be a jewelry brand, right? And just so happens with this one, we make the product ourselves, right? So that's great. But we might work with something like Cause Drinkware, who supports Samaritan's Purse, or Joyn bags you just heard about, or Bridgewater candles, whatever, okay? But when you place an order with Devoted, because it's with Devoted, that triggers a donation, right? So that makes sense. Premier does that. We don't kind of publicize it now, right? But that's kind of why Premier's in business. But here's the real power of this. That same order is also triggering 4 other separate donations because each product has its own cause that it supports. You see that? Okay. So again, let me go back. When you place an order, regardless of what's on the order, with Devoted, Devoted isn't a product, it's a marketplace. It's a place that you shop. Therefore, everything ordered through there, the order can be this small or it can be this big. It triggers a donation because you did it with Devoted. But the whole point of Devoted, there is no product in Devoted that also on its own doesn't already have its own donation that it sets. All right? So when we buy inventory from Joyn Bags, we didn't tell them how to use their money and what their company should be set up for. They've already determined that, right? That's why they built it. So we've supported that. Cause Drinkware would be the same way. And so one order, in this instance, supports 5 different causes, right? That's how we amplify and accelerate the work that we want to see accomplished. And in the midst of that, you get a lot of other products that you can share, right? And we'll talk more about that, but that's really powerful. The other really powerful part of this is, yes, there are marketplaces out there. Yes, there are companies that have a cause. But when you bring in the social selling aspect of this, which is, Joyn Bags, we would also like to introduce your product to our thousands of jewelers who want to share it, whether they do it online, at a home show, whatever. We're going to give you that platform. We're going to expose you to our gym members, our customers. You want to talk about something that's special to them? You know, it's one thing they get offered all the time. Hey, we'll throw you in our store, and if someone grabs it, great. But to have a sales force of thousands, a customer base of tens of thousands to plug into, this is a really powerful opportunity for these brands, and they're eager to do it. All right? So we're working through all of those details, but the power of the model is in those 3 things coming together. All right? And it being really cool and awesome products, right? Again, if it's not cool and awesome products, it doesn't really matter. People can say they're all about causes, but they're like, well, I don't like your product, I'm not buying it, okay? But the kicker a lot of times can be, I feel great about doing this, all right? Yes, they might still offer their product on their own website, and we'll have agreements in place in terms of how pricing works. But, come on, y'all have never been probably to any of these sites before, right? So we're introducing them to a new audience, and what doesn't happen if you order these products elsewhere, it doesn't do what you're seeing on the screen, because that order has to take place through Devoted for all of that to happen at once. That's powerful. That's really powerful, okay? It'll take a little while for it to sink in, I'm sure. Now then, we're leading to a break, but as you can imagine, this is going to require, especially from the home office, but also from you, and we'll spend time on this, managing a marketplace is a different type of thing, okay? And we've got to have new skills and new attention given to certain areas. One of those is definitely e-commerce, right? We've got to get even much better at e-commerce. And so we're going to surround this with specialists in these areas from the home office, be it online ads, be it influencer outreach, content marketing. I won't go into all those details right now, but just know it's not going to be a scenario of, let's just all go learn this stuff now. It's going to be, hey, okay, let's bring in specialists to help us do this and do it well and do it in a way that serves you guys, okay? But this is really, really important, okay? Brand selection, as you saw, this is going to become it's just new ground for us as far as how we go through this process. We aren't just selecting great products, but we're also making sure, the cause does align. By the way, they don't have to be a Christian company for us to work with them. We just have to make sure that the cause doesn't fly in the face of what we're founded on, which is biblical principles, okay? So there will be plenty of people who probably aren't Christians, plenty of brands that aren't, but they're still doing good work. And so hopefully that can even lead to other things too, okay? So just know that. Field development is going to be very different, all right? Telling the story, not just the Devoted story, but all of the stories. I mean, I envision Rally being like, we've joined, here's a new product, and tell us of you've been able to do, how you've been able to impact the world while you've been associated with Devoted. You know, this is going to be amazing. And so we've got to get really, really good, really consistent at telling not the story, but the stories. All right, and that's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of marketing. And so we're going to get really good at that, but we also want to work with you and leverage that as well. And, there's just things that the home office is going to have to invest in now to make this work the way we all want it to work, okay? So that's a lot. And that's good. Some of you get it. Some of you think you get it, but you don't. Some of you know you don't get it yet, okay? And all of that is fine. We're going to go to lunch here soon, and you get to think about it and talk about it. The most important thing is to just think through, one, just as a jeweler, you're going to have, because of this marketplace approach, you're going to have so much more to offer now, all right, which could lead to all kinds of different levels of success for you. Our impact, again, our purpose, that is the whole, I can't say it enough, the whole reason for doing this is take our purpose and how do we take it into the future, all right? That's what this is based on. There's lots of questions you probably got. Oh, what's that going to mean for this? What's that going to mean for that? That's what the whole afternoon's about, all right? But I want you to take some time to just bask in the vision of it without getting worried about the details, at least for an hour, okay? Challenge yourself to say, because I promise you, as we've shared this with others, 30 minutes later, they're like, that's big. All right? So enjoy that process. Two people who've got a little bit of a head start on that process, I want to have join me on the stage right now and just share their heart as we look through this. So help me welcome up here Executive Director Pam Pegram and Six Diamond Gina Gravatt.
My goodness, the whole time I wanted to turn around and look at your face. Y'all go, close your mouth. We're good. Y'all, this is big. And I know you're processing, and we've had a head start on that, and we just want to come and tell y'all this is good. This is so good. Y'all, I've been in Premier. I'm in my 23rd year. And you know what I have always loved about Premier? Is that they have always been devoted. They've always been devoted to their people. They have always been devoted to providing excellent product. But more than any of that, they've always been devoted to this purpose. And so when Andy and Joyn started Premier all those years ago, they first had a purpose before they ever chose a product. And they knew that they wanted to build this company on the foundation of God's Word. And they knew that they wanted to be the hands and the feet of Jesus. But they knew they needed to multiply their efforts. And so they invited all of us to partner with them. And the impact that Premier has had, y'all, all over the world, it is staggering, right? Staggering. And so now I just want to encourage you, don't think small. Think really big. Think large. Dream like crazy. And think about what is going to happen now that we are inviting other companies to partner with us, and the impact that it can have. Y'all, it is going to multiply, intensify, I don't even know what word is big enough, right? To say what's going to happen to the purpose that we have all been built on, that we love and rally around. So think about the schools that will be built, the hospitals, the gospel that will be shared, the Bible studies, the support, all of the things that this is going to offer all around the world. And then stop and think about the possibilities for you. What does this mean for you and for your family? Well, there might be some products that your husband might be excited about. Tom is lobbying for hunting gear. Lots of hunting gear, right? How exciting. But what about my daughters or my son? Like, hey, this is all new, yeah? Think about all the women who've bought so much jewelry from you. They're like, girl, I love you, but man, I have more than you do, right? Now we have all these new products. Yeah. Think about all the people who have never bought a single piece of jewelry from you. It's not their thing. Now you've got something new to offer them. think about going to do an in-person event. We're not just bringing the jewelry store, we're bringing the marketplace. That's exciting, y'all. Think about all the possibility. And you know what? Are there going to be some challenges? You better believe it. Are we going to still have lots of questions and have to figure this out as we go? Absolutely. But you know what I love about us? So we don't compete with one another, y'all. We complete one another, right? Yes, and so we're going to do this together. We get to lead the way. We're going to be excited and motivated and encouraged and inspired and then turn around and offer that to our people. Do y'all remember all the times Andy and Joan said, one day, you'll get to be the Andy and Joan to your people? That's now. So, I'm excited. And so I just want to ask you, where are my mission-minded, purpose-driven, right, sister entrepreneurs who are ready to be devoted? Woo! Yes.
I will start by telling you, when Brett shared this with us a couple weeks ago, I was like a deer in headlights. And a few of you look like that right now. But because I've had a few weeks to process this and pray about it, I realized that this is big, that I can confidently stand here today and say we can do this together. Here's how I'm looking at devoted. It's a whole new world with a fantastic point of view. And it's God's view with a global perspective full of His love for His children around the world, and we get to be part of it. This is bigger than what Premier has already been doing. But I don't want you to get stuck here this weekend and all the details that you're going to hear this afternoon. Hold on. You need to decide now to put your big butts aside. But we used to. But. You need to be forward thinkers with excited butts. But what if? Y'all, transition is hard, but transition is good because it creates an opportunity for us to trust God. What if that's what this is all about? Our relationship with Him is bigger than any product Premier could ever find to represent. When we were at the meeting, Tim had shared more, and Peggy both, about the Joyn bags. Well, first off, let me tell you this at the meeting. I wanted to buy 2 vowels so bad and put them into DVTD so I could see Devoted, like in full, but they wouldn't let me, so I'm over that. But when Tim was sharing the workplace of Joyn, and I heard an open market area, an open workspace, not a factory. People working and talking together, an opportunity for the gospel to be shared and heard. At that moment, I saw myself there, and that changed my heart. I didn't know that was going to happen. I realized that I was trying to process this with my head, and my head is full of a lot of details and a lot of hows and a lot of ifs. But God opened my heart and said, let me do it. And the whole weekend, those of you who spent a lot of time with me there that weekend, I was trying to figure out, but I do a lot of events. Like, how am I going to share this standing in front of people? How am I going to tell everyone about this? What's it going to look like? And then as soon as my head was out of the way, God let the words flow. And Melissa Terrell and Sarah Emmer were the witnesses to that. And Sarah was my scribe because it just came at about 10 o'clock at night. And this is how I can own this and see myself at events in front of women saying, Premier is expanding into a marketplace with a mission. We are partnering with like-minded companies who give back, which is what Premier has done for 35 years. As an affiliate, I continue to rep Premier Jewelry, but now I can promote more products and tell their story behind their product with a mission. Devoted is a global ministry that is an amplified version of what Premier's been doing for 35 years. When Tim and I came into Premier 13 years ago, it was for income. We've stayed in Premier because of who the company was. And I can stand here today and say I am devoted to becoming fully devoted. I can't wait to be part of creating a culture of women who utilize their purchasing power to make a difference around the world. I know that they're going to fall in love with the stories and they're going to return to devoted. And that means they're connecting to the big story, and that's God's story. Could that be what we're really devoted toward? So I want to caution you as you leave here. We are still going to connect with women and develop relationships in living out our unchanged purpose. That's not going to change. But we can love the ideas and the visions we're going to hear this weekend. But if we do nothing, if we take no courage to take action, there's no value in any idea or vision. You all, we're going to canoe a mountain. That's right. We can't canoe a mountain. But we can if we have AAA. If we adapt, if we adjust, and if we adventure, we can canoe a mountain. Our job as leaders is to leave here totally pumped up and sold on what God can do. Not what Brett can do. He doesn't have it figured out either, but God does. And if we leave here if we leave here devoted to something bigger, if we're devoted to this expanded global purpose that God is going to impact lives around the world, we can do this. What if this is the breakthrough God has been preparing us for all this time? What if this is the Esther moment God had planned for each of us for such a time as this? Let's do this.
Wow. Pam, Gina, thank y'all so much. You can come up here and join me, Kevin. So, it's a lot to be excited about. It's a lot to try to understand, but I totally underscore what they were saying. Bask in the vision. Stay there as long as you can. We'll spend some time this afternoon. But I want you to do, and we're about to go to lunch, and Kevin's going to share details with us. We'll talk through, hey, what does this mean? But again, the most important thing is we're clear on making our purpose and our mission come to life in a new way. And I hope that gets you excited. All right? Kevin, tell us what we need to know here.
Well, that was a lot of information, right? And so the good news is you're going to hear a lot more of that this afternoon. So you need lunch to get ready for that. So we're about to break for lunch. And to get there, you just go right back here to the back, follow the signs. It's not a real scenic walk, but it's not a far walk. So follow the signs. Let me ask you right now, there's a lot to cover this afternoon, a lot. So we're going to start at 1. So what that doesn't mean is don't be over here and go, oh, it's 1 o'clock, let's get back. Please come back in here early and get seated so Brett can cover everything he needs to cover. It's a lot of stuff to come. So let's pray for lunch right now and let's get this going. Well, Lord, we love you, Father, and we thank you for this morning and for what we've heard, Lord. And we got everybody in this room. We all love Premier, Father, and for what it's done for the last 35 years. And we're excited, Lord, about what you already have planned for Devoted for the next 35 years. And Lord, there's a lot we don't know about that yet, but we do know that you've gone before us, and that gives us comfort. So thank you, Father, for that. God, right now as we eat, we thank you for our lunch. Thank you for that blessing, Lord. Most of all, we thank you for Christ and for the life that we have because of him and the hope. In his name we pray. Amen.